Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here today. I got an exciting video for you. If you watched last week's video, you saw how I covered the places across North America where you find the biggest black bears. And this week I'm going to cover the areas of North America that have the most potential to produce color phase bears. And I think you're going to be pretty excited about this and really surprised about some of the areas and what the potential is for different color phase bears. So before I get started on the map here, let's talk a little bit about the color phase bears themselves. And you can loosely group color phase black bears into 4 categories. And I've always said, if you could shoot one of each, then you've killed the grand slam of color phase bears. I've done it with a bow. A few people have done it with a rifle. Actually, not that many people have set out to try to kill all of the 4 major color phases and accomplished it. It's difficult, first of all, but it's always surprising to me. You know, we're hunters, we're collectors, we like to try to achieve goals and stuff like that, and the color phase grand slam is a pretty difficult goal to reach. I'm surprised more people don't try to do it, and if you're interested in doing that, this video is really going to help you. Okay, so the 4 different color phases are chocolate, which is dark brown, blonde, which is yellowish to real light brown, cinnamon, which is a reddish color, and of course then your black bears. Now there are other colors that don't really fall into those categories. There's some lighter brown bears that is kind of hard to categorize. So let's go through the areas of North America that produce the different color phases. In the description below, I put a chart in there that lists the states and provinces and what the percentages of color phases are in those provinces and states that have color phase bears. So you can look at that when you're done with the video. First of all, here's a basic thing that you need to know. From the western border of Ontario down the Mississippi River and everything east of that, almost all the bears are black. You rarely see a color phase bear anywhere along the East Coast and Quebec, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador, and so forth. It's very rare to see a bear that's a color other than black. Starting here on the western edge of Ontario, you'll start to see some chocolate bears, and once in a while a cinnamon. I've never known of a blonde in Ontario. I did hunt a cinnamon bear. I'll show you a trail cam picture of it right here in western Ontario. I hunted him for a couple years not long ago. Never did get a chance at him, but across northern Minnesota, specifically the northwest corner of Minnesota, you start to see a few chocolates, and you see some chocolates in western Ontario, and then as you go west, you start to see more and more colors. For example, the eastern half of Manitoba, it's pretty rare to see any color other than once in a while, maybe a 10%, 5 to 10% chocolate bear. The Interlake region is almost all black, but as soon as you get west of Lake Manitoba here, you start to run into quite a few color phase bears, and in fact there's some really good pockets of multiple colors in the Riding Mountains and the Duck Mountains, and then there's the Porcupine Mountains, which is just north of that. I haven't hunted those, so I'm not sure if they have as many color phases as the Riding Mountain and the Duck Mountains, but there's really good colors of all of the color phases in the Riding Mountains and the Duck Mountains. And then you go into Saskatchewan and you start hitting more color phase bears as well. So anything along the forest fringe area is what they call it, basically where that northern boreal forest meets that farmland in Saskatchewan, then you have quite a few color phase bears. In a lot of areas, 30 or 40% can be color phase, and a lot of chocolates, a few blondes and cinnamons and so forth. For my Grand Slam, I killed my cinnamon in central Saskatchewan, and I killed my blonde way up here in northern Saskatchewan, about halfway between Lake Athabasca and Wollaston Lake. Way up there is on a fly-in trip, just way up in the middle of nowhere, and that's where I got my blonde bear. So then you get into Alberta, and the eastern half of Alberta, then you've got multiple color phases. As you hit the mountains on the western edge of Alberta, then up to 50% in some areas are a color other than black, and that's the same on both sides. You get into British Columbia, the Caribou Mountains. I've hunted in the Caribou Mountains. I saw the most beautiful red color phase bear in the Caribou Mountains of British Columbia. he was too far away to shoot with a bow, and I really wanted to kill my Grand Slam with a bow, and I could have taken my guide's rifle and shot him. It was just a stunning, beautiful red bear, but I chose not to. And but those kind of bears are there in that area. And then as you get towards the coast in British Columbia, you're all back into blacks again. There's it drops, the percentages along the coast there drop to probably under 10%. So that's Canada. Well, let's work our way up here through Alaska. So you got northern Alberta. You get up into this area where you got southeast Alaska, British Columbia, Yukon, and about the southern half of Alaska, the main part of Alaska. Those are almost all black bears, and there's few color phases, 5 to 10%. A blonde is extremely rare. A cinnamon is extremely rare. There's a few browns, but the coastal bears are almost all blacks, and that's true all the way down until you hit southern Oregon and into California. But let's go back over here and start from the Mississippi River in the U.S. since we've done Canada. Eastern Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, and those areas there are areas where they have a few chocolate bears, and once in a while a pretty light brown one. But that's a pocket right in there where everything else east of there is pretty much all black. You got a pocket in Oklahoma, Arkansas, where you have some color phase bears. Missouri, they're pretty much all black. Missouri's just starting a season now, so you're going to be able to hunt bears in Missouri for the first time in 2021. So then, there's no bears until you hit the Rocky Mountains. And when you start hitting the Rocky Mountains, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, you're in pretty good color phase bears. Some of them, in some areas, they're 50 to 60% color phase bears. A lot of areas, they'll be maybe 30 or 40, and it's mostly blacks. And then you can get into another area that's 100 miles away or whatever, and you'll see hardly any blacks. And you'll see color phases all up and down through the Rocky Mountains in Idaho and so forth. I hunted in western Wyoming, and for a week last year, I saw 7 bears, and all of them were brown. I didn't see any black ones. There's parts of Utah and Idaho are good color phase, and then as you go west and south, you're into a lot more color phases. In Arizona, over 50% colors. This area right here is known for blonde bears around Lake Tahoe, western Nevada, and eastern California. That's known for blonde bears. The northern half of California is very well known for its color phase bears, colors other than black. So that pretty much covers it. That's where you're going to find your color phase bears. If you want to hunt color phase bears, you got to go to where they live, and that should give you a really good, helpful description of where to find them. And once again, I put this chart in the description of this video below, so you can look at what the percentages are in the various states and provinces. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me if you hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll keep the great information coming. We'll talk to you next week.